Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of A Conversation with Kely. We're here to talk about the Traitors, and I'm not going to do that for the rest of this because it's a fucking horrible impression of the amazing Alan Cumming. But regardless, hello, everyone. Yes,
are you a faithful or a traitor?
But yes, hello, everyone. We are back once again for the next episode of A Conversation with Kely, continuing our discussion of the Traitors US. Season 2, episode 8 was a pretty wild episode. Definitely,
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't say last week was a dud by any means, but it definitely did feel like a step down from other episodes, and in comes this one and just really reminds us like how great this show is when it's firing on all cylinders, and it very much was here. But regardless, before we do get into all of that, I'm here with my lovely new co-host Allie. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I had a pretty chill day. I went for a walk with Magoo, and then I hung out with my coworker friend Taylin for a while. We went to Starbucks, and then we went to this mocktail mixery store, which was really cute, and to try it out and see what they have. So I got a couple little mocktail drinks. Pretty cheap too, not very expensive at all. I literally only paid $18-19. And then
Nice.
Then we went to the mall for a bit, and then came home and just chilled.
Well, that's always a fun time. We love just a nice chill day. I didn't do much myself. Just kind of hung out. I work tomorrow, so I was kind of just relaxing. But we're here to talk about.
And then, of course, I saw Madame Web with my best friend Emily last night, which, if you want to,
was fantastic. The best movie of all time.
I mean, if you want to see my review, go to my letterbox, alleycat_xo.
It was great stuff. I loved I loved how the villain, all of his dialogue sounded like it was an English dub. It was fantastic. But we're not here to talk about Madame Web. We're here to talk about this week's episode of The Traitors, which, Allie, just get into this episode. What did you think of it overall?
Oh my god, it was such a strong one. It was really good. We finally had another murder and banishment.
It's been so long since we actually had a murder.
I know, it feels like forever.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy about that, and just overall it was a really, really spicy one, and I loved it a lot.
Yeah, a lot of the tide is starting to turn, it seems. It's honestly going to be very interesting to see where this next episode goes. I was really happy with the way things went in this episode. Things that seemed, the way things played out, definitely sad, but very inevitable, I would say. I think we knew what was going to happen in this episode happened. So I don't think that was too shocking. But, the way things are going, I'm very excited to see how the rest of the season goes. We only have 3 episodes left, which is insane.
I know. Literally, we just have 2 regular episodes and then the reunion.
No, 3. No, 3. I looked into it. It's 11 actual episodes, and then the reunion is the 12th.
Oh, okay. That's cool then.
And they're releasing the reunion and the finale on the same day. So it's not like we're going to have to wait a week or anything.
So we'll have so 11 and 12 we'll just do 1 full episode for then.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, probably. That'll probably be a very long podcast, but regardless,
it's fine. It's this season is just so good. It deserves.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. But we're just gonna go ahead and just get right into it.
All right. So starting with breakfast, the first 2 people to arrive are Shereé and CT, and Shereé is excited. This is the first time she has been first ever. So she asks him how he slept, and there's a moment he pulls coffee out and spills it on her by mistake, which was pretty funny. He asks her who she thinks got murdered, and she thinks it's either Bergie or Trishelle.
Yep. I think we all kind of expected it was going to be between the 2 of them. I don't think anyone was shocked at what happened here.
Mm-hmm. It definitely makes the most sense for those 2. CT says he knew he was safe this morning, but at the same time, he's a little nervous because of how Trishelle was at him last night. So he's worried if she were to be murdered, he will be the one everyone thinks is at fault for it.
Yeah, which is perfectly understandable with especially the way Trishelle was coming at him. It's it's very easy to just be oh, that was CT.
Oh, for sure. I did feel bad for them though, because she was being really unnecessarily rude.
Yep, and I will say, to his credit, the one thing CT's done so well all season is find a way to, stay out of, all the major conflicts. If there is something going on, he isn't at all, affected by it, and it's really just doing him so well. I think he is easily one of the best social games. He's absolutely locked for the end game.
Yes, I definitely think so. Like, I think it's like CT and Sandra are locks.
Yeah.
So the next two to
How about
arrive.
John as well?
Yeah, I can see John as well. So the next two to arrive are Phaedra and Sandra.
Oh my God, Phaedra's alive. Who would have thought?
Oh yeah, she totally got murdered herself.
People who are totally eligible to be murdered. It's
Phaedra
not like
says this
Sandra
morning.
won or anything.
Phaedra says this morning she is feeling fine and well rested, but it's obviously the last stretch of the game, and no one can be trusted. And some of them are bloodhounds. CT feels they need to get a traitor now before they run out of time. He thinks Parvati is the obvious one being on everyone's radar. He brings up Peter as well, thinking he can be annoying at times, and Phaedra says it's because he's so decisive and compares him to Sherlock Holmes, and that he needs to be nicer and not Sherlock the dick. It's funny. Honestly, I will say Peter was kind of annoying in this episode.
Oh yeah, this was like Peter. I will say I think the idea of what Peter was doing here wasn't bad. It was that he did this after everything else he did. I think that really like hurt him.
Yeah, like, ugh, like he's just like really gone downhill.
Yeah,
like he got way too cocky and comfortable.
I mean, I would argue he was never really that great aside from that one move, but you know,
exactly.
Yeah.
The next to arrive is John, and he says he thinks Trishelle was murdered. She is bright, savvy, and was very frightened last night.
And if you want to just like talk about an episode of like just John being a quote machine, look no further. Like he was on fire in this episode.
Can John just be in everything?
No, literally, like the way he like gives such like we've said it before, the way he just has like such sophisticated vocabulary for like the most unnecessary of situations. It's
He's
so
articulate.
I love him so much.
I do too. He's so wholesome, and he just deserves to be on every show.
Oh yeah, he's great.
The next two arrive are Peter and Kevin. Oh, you're arriving with Peter. That's fun.
Yeah.
Did you? When did you go into the Traitors?
I don't know. I just kind of like, walked in. I've been getting into a lot of fights with people, but that's for the course.
Peter says yesterday he kind of saw the writing on the wall, and thank God John saved him. But now it's bittersweet. And yes, he is safe, but two people he has completely trusted are on the shopping block. CT feels it's Bergie that was murdered since the Traitors already went for him, so why not take him out now, getting it late in the game. Sandra says that Kate hasn't had a lot of time with them, and then there's MJ, who Phaedra thinks is a real sweetie pie. Kevin says the person he really wants to see walk through the door is Parvati, because if she's murdered, then he has no idea who a traitor is right now.
Yeah, I mean that would have been so funny if like this entire season Parvati wasn't a traitor and they were just like so on her, but obviously we know what's actually going on.
Just then Kate is the next person to arrive for breakfast, followed by MJ. Kate says she thought for sure she would be the one murdered, but maybe even the Traitors want to keep him because he thinks people trust her. But they shouldn't, because she would throw any of them in the moat in a second for $10.
And again, just Kate's not giving a fuck energy. It's just the best.
So good. She's just she's so direct, and it's just so entertaining.
Yeah. But I also think it's really working out for her though on this cast, because it's like, I mean, like we said when she joined, like everyone's coming after each other. She's been so vocal, specifically at this banishment. She is so incredibly vocal, and yet it's not having any effect on her whatsoever. Like she's pretty much gotten off scot-free. And I think it really is due to the fact that like she is just so blunt and always speaks her mind. It's like, it's kind of similar to Phaedra. It's like she's so blunt about everything. Why would she be a traitor? Because that's just her personality. And I feel like that's why, spoilers, it's a really good move that Phaedra did what she did at the end of this episode, because I think her and Kate are very similar in that way.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's like perfect, honestly.
Yeah.
Peter thinks it's for sure Trishelle or Bergie, because there's no way Parvati isn't coming to breakfast.
Yep.
Phaedra says Parvati's name has been in people's mouths since day one. She wants to protect her, but it's becoming very difficult. I mean, yeah.
Mm.
The next to then arrive to breakfast is Parvati, and then in walks Trishelle. But this means Bergie has been murdered. But I'm just gonna say it, like, I feel like, I mean, yes, Bergie is like Peter's yes man, like his side piece, but I also think it would have been smarter to go for
Absolutely
Trishelle.
should have been Trishelle. Like, hands down should have been. Just, like, listen, you can't fault Phaedra for this because Phaedra doesn't know what
Yeah,
Trishelle knows. She doesn't know, well, at least not yet. Later
yeah,
on she does, but not yet. Doesn't know, what Trishelle knows. But I do think that it absolutely was the move to murder Trishelle here because
definitely.
while Bergie, yes, is Peter's yes man, he's not really as much of a threat. He's not nearly as, he's not really as like, his reads aren't as good as Peter's. He's not as on top of things or as Trishelle's. He's not as on top of things as Trishelle. Like, he's
Mm-hmm.
not nearly as big a threat, especially to
Oh,
Phaedra. I don't think he was ever going to come for her. So yeah, this definitely should have been Trishelle.
oh, also, you can also remove like our um guest on the description because she said she'll
Oh,
be on,
I
but
will.
like
I will. I will.
she's probably gonna be on next week
Yeah.
because we were supposed to have a guest for this episode, but
Yes.
she's just a little bit busy and such, so we're probably gonna have
Hmm.
her like next week or a different episode.
Yeah, I'll do that.
So we cut back to the turret where Parvati says to Phaedra that she really wanted to kill Peter tonight and is so mad they can't do it. But Bergie is the
Mhm.
next best thing to get some of the support out.
Yep. And I mean, to Parvati's credit, like, this was definitely the right move on her part. I do think this is, again, an example of really the only thing I think Phaedra has been kind of doing wrong as a traitor. And that's that, again, just not being vocal. Like, she really has just kind of let Parvati and Dan take the reins. And while that is a good move, I mean, they've been just completely flopping and not really making the right calls. So I think this was the time for Phaedra to be like, no, I don't want Bergie to go. That's my Burgalicious. Like, let's go for Trishelle. Like, I think
Mhm.
Phaedra need to be just a little bit more vocal here than she was. But
Yeah,
again,
she could
obviously, like
have.
I said, she didn't know what she knew about Trishelle.
Like
So I think it's
I
totally
love
fair.
Phaedra and she has been playing very good socially, but she's just very passive.
Yeah. And that does work. Like, that
Yeah.
definitely does work. It's just, I think that there does come a point where you need to start being a little bit more vocal. And I just think that Phaedra hasn't really done that yet.
Yeah, definitely. Bergie then reads the letter that the traitors have decided to murder him. He thinks he played the best game he could have. He was really nervous coming in and learned so much about himself. He's able to handle confrontation better, and he got to show he's someone who can't be manipulated. He thinks the traitors knew that, and he would have taken down everyone else with him. I mean, I actually really like Bergie. Like
I did too.
he started off very just like not really wasn't really there much and didn't do much but then he like really broke out of his shell and started being more cutthroat and things like that. Like he's just like this sweet, really sweet guy, but who has like a really like crazy, wild, cutthroat side to him, which was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like I thought he did very well. And definitely bring him on to like as a second chancer or just other games and stuff. That'd be really cool because he was really fun to watch.
Yeah, he played very differently than I expected him to. I kind of thought he was going to come in and kind of just be like the nice guy, almost like what we saw last season, where he
Hmm.
just kind of was someone who was just there to like make nice with people, and that's all he was really going to be. But then once Janelle left, it's like this fire ignited within him, and he was just so fun to watch after that
Oh
point.
yeah.
So yeah, he really surprised me. I liked him a lot, actually. I was surprised by how much I did enjoy him in this show.
Oh, me too. I thought he was like really entertaining too.
For sure.
John then makes a toast to Bergie, saying it's a sad and solemn moment that and they must pay their respects.
Yes.
I just have to bring in the accent whenever we talk about John.
And once again, can we talk about how Phaedra at this point is literally just focusing on breakfast?
I know. It's so funny.
Yeah, like she's like she was like focusing on like the bagels and things like that. It was
I
great.
know. Her tells are so funny.
Yeah. Wait, her
She's
what?
just her tells and, like, everything. She's such reality TV gold.
Well, it's not really a tell. It's like she's not guilty or like she's not like yes, she like I wouldn't say it's a tell. It's more so just like something
Her
she's doing. I don't
reactions.
think she realizes that she's doing. It's that they're seeing it as a tell when it's not.
Yeah, she just has, like, really, like, shady reactions, which is so good.
No, I think she's just completely unbothered. I don't think she
I mean,
cares.
that too.
I think as long as it's not her, she doesn't care.
Yep, she's just like, "Someone has to die."
Yeah.
Peter talks to Kevin and says this is not good losing him, and Kevin agrees they could lose voting power and missions. Peter says vengeance is definitely coursing through his veins right now. I mean, he's been close with Bergie since the beginning, and they were in it together.
Yep.
Trishelle says a lot of these guys are looking for the safest bet, which would be Parvati because so many people are convinced she's a traitor, but she's always been convinced of Phaedra because no one suspects it and she doesn't ever throw names or talk much game, and she's a poker player and she has a little twitch in one of her eyes, which is a tell at a poker table. She just needs to convince the other guys.
Yeah, and I mean, great reads, but I don't like her coming for Phaedra.
No, like, ugh. Like, are we shocked that she's going for Phaedra?
No.
Alan walks in and tells them that last night 4 of them were hung out to dry, but it was Bergie who suffered the final blow and brutally dispatched by the traitors. Despite the loss, they must let bygones be bygones. And then he throws out his picture on the ground, which breaks the frame and says, "Bygone."
Oh, that was great. That was great.
So,
Alan just always
so
delivers.
good. He's so like he's like one of the best hosts.
Oh, yeah.
He tells them today they will be taking a trip to his holiday home. He has a guest who's currently staying there that will help them settle in because who doesn't love a little country escape?
Yeah, I mean, I think when he said that, we're like, okay, Dr. Will's coming out, and let's just say it's not really what you think. That's all I will say. We'll get to that in a little bit, but it's not really what you think. Okay. So we get probably the most interesting stuff besides the roundtable is once again before they go to the challenge. We see Trishelle says that the traitors are targeting her little group. This is a game and a new mindset. She thinks the traitors could be targeting Parvati and Phaedra, but numbers wise, Phaedra has way more people that would never vote for her, so it makes more sense to get her out now. So she pulls Peter aside and says that Parvati has been on her list since the beginning, but she really thinks that Phaedra is a traitor because she's super smart, savvy, and never worried. Peter says that they can get rid of Parvati and then just suck up to Phaedra, which, yeah, this is absolutely the logical thing to do. Like, listen, I know we've been saying that, like, I think Peter's been way too dominant, but he's correct. It's like, when they've constantly been saying Parvati and they're always saying Parvati's a traitor, it's like not going for Parvati here is really fucking suspicious. Like, that's not a good thing to do. And I feel like this, like, Peter's right with what he's saying here. Like, it makes sense. Just go for Parvati, worry about Phaedra later. But Trishelle says that the biggest reason she feels this way is because Dan called her out during the roundtable and he thought they all need to be fed a traitor so he would look like the hero of the group. And look, I like Dan a lot. I will always be a Dan Gheesling fan, but yeah, this is really bad. He definitely really messed up the game for the traitors. It feels like I get what he was trying to do, but like I said,
yeah, he was trying to save himself, but it just didn't really work well.
Yes, but like I said, I think he needed to plant those seeds earlier. If he had planted those seeds earlier, I think that this game would have played out much differently. You could have gotten out Phaedra, and I don't think Dan and Parvati are as big of targets at that point. But I think the fact that Dan and Parvati work so closely together, and then he also targeted Phaedra, and, you know, people are starting to kind of catch on to what he's saying. And we did talk about this. It's like, it's like, what was I going to say? Yeah, we did talk about the fact that, like, is Trishelle going to do anything about this? I really do think it was a mistake to do what Dan did. I think, again, if he was going to do that, it should have been way earlier in the show because it really ended up hurting the traitors in a pretty huge way that I don't know if they're going to come back from. Until Trishelle is gone, I don't know if this will go away. So
I don't either. Like, oh my god, it's gonna be interesting to watch for sure.
Yeah, so Kevin comes in. She asks him where his head is at. Kevin says he thinks it's unanimous on Parvati. She explains her reasoning to him about Phaedra and thinks that they should get her out before Parvati because she's a wounded bird all by herself. Peter says tonight, if Parvati gets votes and isn't banished, she has no reason to not come after one of them and says he needs to get on. And she suggests that remember, this is Trishelle who's pitching this, that he needs to get onto Parvati's side, convince her that they all think it's her, but that his group doesn't, and that it's Phaedra, and he isn't really sure about it. And remember, this whole time, Peter's been pushing against what Trishelle has been saying. He's like, no, we don't have to worry about Phaedra. This is not a problem. So I suspected he was going to do the same thing here. Just beat the Parvati drum constantly. Just keep antagonizing her until he goes for her. Like, I thought for sure that's what was going to happen. And yeah, we'll get into what he actually does. But she says that he needs to think ahead, and he says he's trying to figure out how to get them all to survive one more night. She says she's thinking 3 steps ahead, and Peter is unsure why Parvati would work with them, and she thinks that she would do anything to save her own ass. She will vote to save herself. She's concerned with further down the road, and if she gets murdered for it, fuck it. She says there's no risk, no reward, and she played the shit before it's strictly a numbers game. And do you think that this is a good plan, like, on Trishelle's end?
I mean, I'm glad she's at least trying. Like, she's fighting hard. I just don't really like her.
My issue, taking the, I don't like Trishelle out of the equation, I still don't think this is a good move. And the reasoning is because
she's playing hard, which is good, but yeah, she's not exactly the smartest player. She definitely has good reads, but
well, because you have to think about is like that entire side has always been going for Parvati. They've been saying Parvati. Peter's literally been saying Parvati since Dan's vote. Like, remember, he didn't vote Dan, he voted Parvati. He was trying to get Parvati out. When you've been that consistently just saying the same thing over and over again, and then you're suddenly switching it up, I mean, that's like a red flag in terms of like this person was recruited and they're a traitor. So like this is really bad. If Trishelle wanted to ruin Peter's game, great job, but I don't think that was her intention. Like, I don't think this was a good move at all.
No, I don't think so either.
So Peter says the one thing in this game is that he needs to be flexible and has to learn how to adapt. Trishelle made some valid points in taking out Phaedra first, and he's willing to go along with it. And I don't understand why he's going along with this all of a sudden. He literally pushed against it in the last episode. Why is he now all of a sudden going for this? Like, it feels like Peter just kind of lost the plot in this episode.
He did. He was just thinking. Like, he just got so cocky and he's so comfortable. He's just like, he's like, oh, whatever, I'll do anything.
I don't think I can say that he got cocky because he took Trishelle's advice. If he was cocky, he wouldn't have listened to her, but he did listen to her, and I think that was a mistake. So I don't think it's him being cocky. I think it's him literally just losing the plot. So Trishelle is thrilled that people are finally listening to her.
I feel like he forgot what game he's playing.
Yeah, pretty much. But feels that her game plan is I think he forgot what he's been saying for like the past 3 episodes. But basically, she feels her game is dulled in, and tonight Phaedra is going to leave. Peter then goes to talk to Parvati, and this is a very crucial scene. Remember, these two have been basically rivals all season long. They've always been going at it, and he suddenly just changes up on her immediately, and he asked her if she wants to know when he felt like their relationship deteriorated, and she asked if it's because he told her to keep a secret. She says that she didn't know if she could trust him, so she trusted the wrong person. She says from day one, she felt so targeted from Larsa, and explains what Dan said to her. That's kind of how she operates in this game: create an alliance, then be tight with that person and trust him. He says the game is evolving, and I will say, on Parvati's end, this is good. She's showing that Dan was a problem and that she trusted him too much. But here's my issue with it, and I don't know if you agree with this. She should have done this when Dan was still in the game. Absolutely should have done this when he was still in the game. Like, the second that Larsa left and she realized that, or the second that Janelle left and that started to put a really big target onto Dan, she really should have just outed the fact that, like, yeah, Dan and I have been working together since the beginning. I've been trying to protect him. That's why I haven't said anything. I feel like that was the way to go about this. And the fact that she's doing it now, it's just a little too late. Like, I appreciate that Parvati really does try to switch things up here.
Like, she's trying to, like,
it was too late.
Yeah, like, she's trying, she's fighting, she's doing what she does, but like doing what she does best. But yeah, it's definitely too late on her part.
Yeah, so Parvati says she doesn't trust Peter at all, but she does believe if she can convince him that she's a faithful, then they'll believe what she says, and she will work with public enemy number one. Remember, this is what she wanted. She wanted to work with the person that was against her, so she's getting her way.
Yep.
But again, it really isn't amounting to much of anything because she knows she's probably going to go here. So when she talks to him a bit more, he says he thinks he may have been wrong. She says she didn't think there was any chance he would talk to her again because he made up his mind after that, and she became like a complete porcupine trying to stab him with her quills. He says he had a feeling and has been coming right back at her, and they both call a truce, and he says that maybe she isn't a traitor, and he mentions Phaedra and how he thought that she was one that was with him, and if they get her, that is roots for them to get off of her back, and they should work together to do so. She says she will do whatever at this point, and Parvati says that she adores Phaedra, doesn't want to turn on her, but she wants to stay in this game and feels if they get her, it may actually take some heat off of her. So yeah, I mean, I think that again, this is a good plan what Parvati's doing. It's just very clear to me that like this is way too late in the game to be doing something like this. Yeah. So while this is all going on, MJ is listening to this entire conversation.
It's so funny.
So she reports it back to Trishelle, says it's not making any sense or adding up. Kate believes that this is just Parvati begging Peter for her life to stop saying she's a traitor. She says she's very persuasive and a yoga teacher, and she talks about a yoga class she had that was horrible, and that the yoga teacher is still telling her to stay in hell. I thought just great moment from Kate. This is why we love so good on the show. Shereé then asks Phaedra and John if they have anyone else on their list after Parvati, and Phaedra mentions how Peter acts so crazy and very suspicious. So honestly, like this is probably the worst thing that Peter could have done. He was already in a bad position. But I do think that honestly, the suspicions of him had kind of worn off after Bergie's gone. It's like, okay, one of the Pete's pals is gone. We don't have to worry about him. Like they're not nearly as much of a threat. Because remember, the whole thing was like, they are going to outnumber us. We can't let that happen. Once Bergie's murdered, that's not really a problem anymore. So Peter's kind of in the clear at that point. But him now suddenly wanting to work with Parvati and switching up on her, again, it's just really bad. Like, and I don't think he realizes like how bad this is. I don't understand why he listened to Trishelle. He should have just continued to push against it. Like he's been saying, we have to go for Parvati. It doesn't make sense to change it up now. But again, it just seems like he just wasn't thinking in this episode. He was just willing to do whatever. And it's just,
he's
really
just like,
bad, really bad.
Yeah, he's just like, let's just do anything.
Pretty much.
So getting into the mission, on the way to the castle, Kate says she expects this mission will be awful because they all are, and she doesn't love that it's raining. I love her reactions to all of the cops.
Yep.
Trishelle talks to Parvati and says she knows her name is going around for banishment. There are people who do think she's a traitor, but she's not one of them, and neither is Peter, and she has way more reasons for Phaedra to be one, and she explains her reasonings about it and says through going her notes last night she has a shitload on her, but she's nervous because if they don't get her out this round for banishment, she will go to the end and take all the faithful's money. Sandra says while Trishelle is pushing Phaedra hard, she's suspicious of Parvati and feels she is a threat in this game, and she's here to get to the end no matter what.
Yeah, and I mean, we kind of had suspicions that like Sandra knew that it was Parvati and just wasn't really saying anything. And I think Sandra realizes that like she can only protect her for so long. She can only, try to help her for so long. Like there has to be a point where she takes her out, and this is that point.
Yeah. Their ride finally stops and they end up near a creepy cabin. Peter says he has no idea who the guest is that Alan is talking about, but he can only imagine it will be insane. They walk up to the door and see the guest, which is Dr. Will from Big Brother.
Yeah, let's talk about this real quick because they released a trailer all the way back when the premiere came out. I don't know if there was a lot of speculation on this trailer wasn't supposed to be released. This trailer wasn't supposed to be a thing. But at the very end, we saw like a brief glimpse of Dr. Will. Everyone was speculating what it was all about. We were all hoping that it would be like this reunion for like him and Janelle and like have Dan in there, but instead none of them are there, and I think only like 2 or 3 people recognized him.
I think it's so funny because I will say though, Dr. Will just being like a guest host for this is kind of just pointless.
Yeah, I don't understand why we need guest hosts. Like, they haven't done it prior to this. It
Like, just
really
have him
felt
on
like
next
to me,
season, or they could have just had him on this season too.
well, this is what it feels like to me, and I don't know if this is the case. I have no way of proving this, but it seems like to me they wanted him on this cast. Like, they asked him to be on, and he said, well, I'm not going to do that. I'll only go on the cast if I'm able to do like a brief, like 5-second thing. And they're like, okay, cool, we can get you on there. Because they weren't going to say no to Dr. Will, so they put him on. And I wouldn't be shocked if he said that, because his responses, especially on Twitter and things like that, really just show that, like, I think he's like fully over reality TV. Like,
Also,
he has no time for it.
It seems like him and Janelle do not talk and get along anymore.
Well, I mean, did you read what he said? He literally said that, like, these people came on to prove that they still got it when maybe they never did. And it's like, one, that's not necessarily true. This is a completely different game than the one.
Is he still bitter at Janelle for voting him out at 4 in All-Stars?
Well, I don't think he was just talking about Janelle. I think he was also talking about Dan and like Rachel and all like Big Brother players and things like that. Because Rachel really got upset on Twitter too, I saw. But no, I think the thing with him is that it really, like, I think he has a point in saying, like, yes, most of the, like, almost all the Big Brother players have flopped on this show, but I don't think it's because they're bad players. I think this just wasn't the game for them. Like I've said it before, just because you're good at Big Brother, it doesn't mean you're going to be good at other games. And we've seen, like, for example, Cody struggle with that. He wasn't good at reindeer games. He wasn't good at Traitors, but he was good at Big Brother. Like we've seen that. We can't all be Shereé where we're just good at everything. Like that's just not the case. Some people aren't as multifaceted as that. Same applies to Dan. Dan was great on Big Brother, wasn't great on the Traitors. So I don't think Dr. Will is right in saying, like, oh, they were never good anyway. It's like, no, they're just not good at the Traitors. Like, I think that was kind of unnecessary. But yeah, regardless, this was pointless. I feel like we waited all this time for Dr. Will, and this is what we get. It was just like
really, like, it was just filler having him.
Yeah, and there's so many ways they could have gotten him. Like I saw on a podcast, someone said, like, he could have served them breakfast. He could have come up to them, like, and roasted them a bit. Like, there's so many things he could have done, but they gave him like the most boring thing possible. Like, this was literally nothing.
Yeah. But Parvati and Trishelle instantly
not worth waiting for.
Parvati and Trishelle instantly recognize him, as does Sandra, but the rest do not know who he is. Of course, like, all the, like, gamers know who he is.
Oh yeah. Which, I mean, I expected that, like, you know, Challenge and Survivor people will know, but no, everyone else.
I feel like someone like a bird. Wait, well, not Bergie. Sorry, not Bergie. He's murdered. I feel like someone like a Peter is probably just like, who's this?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. She's just like, okay. That's also why this is stupid, because, like,
and like all the housewives are probably like, I don't know what this is.
And that's also why this was a stupid move, because it seems like they did this thinking that, like, oh, the Big Brother players will still be here. Like, Dan will still be here. This will be a lot of fun. Janelle will still be here. Like, yes, that's fun. But when they're not there, there's nothing to talk about here. There's nothing exciting about this.
I will say, I wish, like, Bergie got to see, because I feel like Bergie would have said something like, I wasn't young enough for, or I wasn't born or something, or too young for knowing who he is.
Yeah, Ekin-Su probably would have said the same thing too, because they were the only two, like, 20-year-olds in the cast.
Dr. Will tells them he's been renting this place for the last few weeks from Alan, and says he has made it very unique, so they are to step on in and make themselves at home. They step inside, and he locks the door and tells them that the most fun thing about this place is trying to find their way out, and tells them to make themselves at home. He tells them Alan said there's up to 20K worth of gold available. They have 30 minutes to work as a team, and for every person who doesn't escape, their earnings will be reduced by 1,000K. If anyone wants to quit, they are to say the safe word, haggis. Alan will see them on their way out.
And that's it. That's literally all you get at Dr. Will.
Alan will see them once they're out.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, if you were excited to see Dr. Will, there you go. He's gone after that.
He was there to literally just explain the challenge. That's it.
Yeah, like, literally, I can't think of a more boring way to bring somebody onto a show. Like, this was literally nothing.
It was so dumb.
It's like when they've brought people back for like Big Brother, they've at least done things like theme the comp around them, like theme it around maybe something funny they did on their season, like have them host. Like this was nothing. I don't know why they even bothered with this.
Yeah, I don't either. It was just like completely pointless.
Yeah.
Alan will see. Oh yeah, sorry, I read that. Alan will see them once they're out. They then basically go through an escape room of sorts, while along the way end up going through a tunnel that is infested with rats, snakes, and bugs.
Yeah.
Okay, I will say I absolutely love and adore escape rooms,
Oh,
but
yeah, they're fun.
This challenge would be not for me because I don't like snakes.
So would you be saying haggis?
I don't like snakes. I don't like rats. I don't like bugs. Oh God.
So you would be saying haggis is what you're saying?
Oh yeah. Maybe I'd still try and do the comp, like, because I love escape rooms, but I'd be also
But
like,
do you want bugs crawling on you?
no, I'd be like, get off me.
So you'd probably say haggis is what you're saying.
I'd just be like, can someone get these bugs off me?
Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. They keep crawling on you.
Oh, what would you think of that?
I mean, I would fight till the bitter end, but I don't know if I could
Same.
fucking withstand like snakes crawling on me and shit.
Oh
So
God, I would be like, no thanks.
yeah, but I
Like,
like this
I
comp
don't even like
otherwise.
going near snakes.
Yeah, I like this otherwise though. I thought it was really fun to do this with the escape room and things like that.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
it was fun
know.
to watch.
Yeah, I don't know if the rats were completely unnecessary. I think the snakes and the bugs were enough.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought this was fun.
Oh, definitely, it was fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, they did this last season too, when like they dumped like bugs on them and things like that. It was like one of the last challenges I remember.
Yeah.
One.
During this mission, Trishelle finds a hidden shield.
Yep.
After a good majority of them bowing out of the challenge, CT is able to find the gold, thus winning them over 15K worth of gold.
Bless you.
Thank you.
I guess the gold makes you sneeze.
However, because 4 of them vacated the cabin, they lost 4K, which leads them to 11K. He also lets them know a shield was won in this mission, but Trishelle decides to keep that silent.
Yeah, which, I mean, I've talked about this. It's like, I generally think moving forward, like, just have the shields be secretive. I think it's so much more exciting that way, especially with, like, what they did with, like, Bergie and things like that. Like, I want to see more of that moving forward. I think it's more exciting when they don't know who has a shield. So, yes, it fucks up the Traitors game, but, like, it's more exciting
that way. It's more spicy and suspenseful.
Yeah.
So, post-mission, CT asks Kevin how he felt about getting dumped by 4 girls at the same time, and Kevin says in his high school days it was normal for him.
Yeah, that was funny. I like that.
That was funny. CT's such a clown.
Is just like, he's always here to just like give us all the comedy, and I'm here.
Oh yeah, he's so chill, but he's also such a clown.
Oh yeah. It's like you need like a fun one-liner, just go to CT.
Oh, yeah.
But if you need like a really iconic one-liner, go to John. But if you need a fun one, go to CT.
Yes. Peter tells Parvati they have the votes, and if he was in her position, he wouldn't be worried. Parvati says the jury is still out with Peter, and she doesn't trust him, but she wants to see where John's head is at, because he's seen as the most faithful of them all, and if she can put on a killer performance and convince John she's a faithful, it may just be enough to get suspicion of her off of her and convince them to vote for Phaedra.
And again, I think great move. I think great move on paper. I think there's a lot of, things here that she's doing really well. But again, she should have done this earlier. I think if she had done this earlier, put on this whole persona as like, I'm innocent, I'm being accused of stuff, people are coming after me, I don't understand what's going on. Like, that would have been much better than what she's been doing. And not say she's been playing a bad game. I just think that like, it's like, you're doing something at the last minute and it comes across that you're doing it at the last minute. So I just think, again, she just needed to do this a lot earlier.
Definitely. Like, it was just way too late, sadly. Yeah. So there was nothing she could really do.
Yeah, but both her and Dan had that issue, I feel like, this season, where it's like they wanted to do this like crazy shit at the last second. And it's like, that's a fun idea, but it's like, I don't think the Traitors is the game to do that. I think you need to start doing stuff earlier.
Mm-hmm. She goes to John and she starts crying and says that when she feels like she's been under attack, she just becomes very icy and voila. But she feels like because she's trusted the wrong person in Dan, his target has just stuck to her when she feels like she's under threat. And it's just a continuation of how she's been living and the things she's been through the past 2 years. And the only way she's gotten through it is completely masking her emotions. And she's just doing the same thing here. So she doesn't think it's doing her any favors. He says this is the first time he's observed her so emotional, and for what it's worth, for all the people he's met in this game, nobody has revealed and displayed greater guts and character than she does. And what she needs to demonstrate is that she's a faithful player and wouldn't chop off his head, and she says she would never.
And I was convinced that, like, okay, she's won over John here, which we'll talk about, but I really was convinced that, like, this actually worked.
Oh, I know. I thought that was going to be the case, too. I thought, like, is Parvati going to, like, stay again?
Yeah.
Because, like, she says she's always so good at, like, surviving.
Yeah, and that, like, credit to the editors here. They really make you think here that, like, Parvati's okay and that she's going to survive.
Exactly. Parvati says if she can get away with this, maybe she has a new career in acting.
I mean, it seemed like she did.
John then talks to CT, Sandra, Trishelle, and Kate and asks about tonight's business. And Kate says she's been here. Parvati was mentioned every time, so she's just going to finish that one. And Trishelle then brings up her suspicions with Phaedra. CT says all options should be explored, and Trishelle says everyone will vote how they want to vote. But she's just going to present all options, and CT says he's voting for a traitor, so whatever he thinks is the most compelling. Kate, however, is not convinced, despite Trishelle pushing hard for it.
Yeah, and can I just say, like, out of everybody in the house, I feel like Kate is, like, the most logical. Like, out of everybody,
Oh, yeah.
she's like, what are we doing here? Like, she's the one that's just, like,
know.
constantly, like, checking people. Like, I know what you're doing. This is stupid.
We stand. CT asks if she's aware she's going for her, and Trishelle says no, because she's such a good arguer, and she's the smartest person there, and maybe she takes terrible notes, and if it's not her, she will burn her fucking notebook. Trishelle says she's not afraid of being murdered tonight because she has a shield, but John, Peter, and Kevin are at risk, and she's less convinced Parvati is a traitor than she is Phaedra. Kate says she's just so confused because the whole time she's been here, all she's heard is Parvati's name, and now at the final hour, Trishelle is throwing out Phaedra, and she doesn't understand why she's throwing a wrench into the plan. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
As they're all talking, Phaedra walks in and asks if they're good, and everyone goes silent. Phaedra says she doesn't think her name will come up, but today feels weird. This game creates a sense of paranoia. No one is really safe, but the obvious is Parvati.
Yeah, and I mean, I think at this point, like, it was very hard to tell what was actually going to happen here, because, like, you have Kate, who seems like she's the one who's like, this doesn't make any sense, but it seems like Trishelle is starting to get more people on board. And well, let's just talk about the roundtable, because this was easily one of the best roundtables of the season, and really, again, just a reminder of, like, don't not do a roundtable for an episode, because, like, what makes this show so great is the roundtables. Like, that's what makes this so exciting. Everything's so open, everything's so public. You can't hide, you have nowhere to hide. Like, that is what makes this show as good as it is. And when you don't have it for an episode, it really just feels like something's missing. So I was really happy to just see it back here.
Me too. It was fantastic to watch.
So Phaedra says coming into this roundtable, it's going to be very hard for Parvati, but she's played a good game that has lasted way longer than everyone thought. Parvati knows that it's going to be her or Phaedra. There's no other names on the block, and she wishes that there was a way both of them could be saved, but it seems like it will be her tonight. So Trishelle says she is the most evidence that they could have in this game, but she's feeling a little bit nervous. Phaedra has like 3 ride or dies in which she could show them she's a traitor and they would vote for her. So again, Trishelle feels like, you know, my work is done. I've done what I need to do. Phaedra's going home, and yeah, we'll talk about that. So Parvati starts off the roundtable by saying that she knows her name has been out there. People have been saying she's acting weird and quiet, and they're right, and talks about how she survives when she's in tough situations and under attack is becoming a brick wall. She made some poor decisions in who she decided to trust. She made friends with Dan, who was a big problem because he was a traitor and she didn't know, and now is in a big predicament, and she's clammed up like a shell. So again, I think all of what she's saying is great here, but this is honestly, like, this is literally what she needed to say at Dan's roundtable. Like, she really just needed to go at him, and I'm really upset we didn't get to see that, because I think that would have been so exciting. Like, just imagine Dan and Parvati going at it. Oh, that would have been
it would have been so good. Oh my god.
Yeah. So Trishelle then talks about how she was going over her notes last night and looking back, and she wondered when they started talking about Parvati, which she didn't have much about her other than her acting super quiet, which aren't really compelling arguments than someone that's a traitor. But for Phaedra, she has so much. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, Trishelle, you know what just happened when somebody tried to call out Phaedra and just how she had an answer for everything. Why would you try to do it again? But she does. And let's talk about how this goes, because she starts off with the least compelling by saying whenever they go into breakfast, and again, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me with the breakfast again? Dan literally just did this. And everyone was like, what are you saying?
It's just like, oh my god. That was like, really?
But I will say, her actual reasoning here does make sense, because she says she doesn't seem surprised by who was murdered. And I agree with this. Like we've said, this is a problem. Phaedra never seems surprised. Phaedra never seems like she has much of a reaction. And Phaedra immediately questions this. And Trishelle says it's her non-reaction that shows that she's never worried, bothered, or scared about being murdered. Phaedra says she's not sure what she means. She's been nervous numerous times, and she doesn't know what she wants her to do to be nervous because she's not frantic like her. Again, Phaedra just absolute gold all the time.
It's fantastic to watch.
Yeah. Trishelle then brings up the most compelling argument for her, which is something she doesn't see a way around. And she talks about how Dan is a smart game player. She knew Dan was going to go to a roundtable and say the name of someone who is a traitor, because if he put one out there, it would absolve him of being one. And she thinks he turned on Phaedra, and that she is one, and that she is a traitor no matter what. And I get what Trishelle is trying to do here, but saying this to Phaedra, who again, had an answer for everything and defended herself so well, I just think that like this was not like a good this was not a very good reasoning at all. Like again, I get what she's trying to do, but it's like, Dan tried this, it didn't work. Why are you trying this? So
yeah.
John then backs this up by asking what possible incentive Dan has at that point of which he's going to be banished permanently to lie. Phaedra says that she thinks he would protect the traitors and wouldn't obviously give someone that was a traitor. Kate talks about how last year they voted out two, and this I think really showed that like, okay, this is not going to happen. What Kate says here, because she talks about how in her season they voted out 2 traitors, and she sarcastically says she wishes it would have been that easy and just banishing whoever the most recent traitor had voted for. That would have made it much easier, but obviously that didn't happen, so she's not buying it now. She doesn't feel like that's what's going on. So Kevin then talks to Phaedra about how whenever he talked to her about any suspicions of people, her eyes start to freak out a little bit. And Phaedra says she's never heard anyone say that. Trishelle says she also noticed it. Kevin asks if she grew up with twitches. Kevin just continuing to just get into fights with people. Like, this is just what he does.
He's so, like, messy.
Yeah. Phaedra says no one has said that. She's never heard it a day in her life. Kevin tells her it's just an observation. Again, I gotta compliment Phaedra for staying so calm throughout this entire thing. Like, you can tell that she's annoyed, but she stays so composed, and it's so impressive how she's able to do that. Like, I think that to me is why she is absolutely playing one of the best games this season. I think she's just so good at defending herself.
Oh, she's like fantastic in that sense, because she really knows how to like just keep chill and keep calm and just keep it calm.
Be her attorney self, So CT,
like, she knows exactly what to do.
Yeah, so CT then asks John what he's thinking. He says he feels based on his intuition. And at this point, I really thought Parvati had won John over. So what he says here was so shocking to me. He says that he feels based on his intuition that Parvati could be a duchess of deception and a mistress of murder. And oh my God, I mean, the way that he just had Parvati so fooled here. And
he was so mad, or Parvati was so upset.
Oh yeah, it was crazy to see how that went down. But he has heard what she has said in relation to Dan, and there's no doubt she was his accomplice and him hers, but also possibly his partner in crime. He has detected she was worried about banishment and serene about the threat of murder, and he mentions how at the sacrifice ritual people were given the opportunity to plead for their lives, and she didn't, and chose to say nothing because she knew she was not going to be murdered. Parvati says that she has been dead scared until very recently when there has been so much suspicion because she thought the more suspicion on her, the more likely it was the traitors would keep her around because they wouldn't kill someone who is probably going to be the next to be banished because that would be smart of the traitors to do that. So she has been scared because there's been suspicion of her. And yeah, I mean, John pretty much, I think, seals Parvati's fate here where it's like she did not plead. She didn't beg. She didn't even seem worried at the ritual. Why wouldn't she be a traitor at this point? So anything she did prior, like, again, I mean, John completely fooled everybody here. Like,
I know.
I want to see John be a traitor because I feel like he'd be really good based on how much he fooled everybody.
Well, I think John would be amazing as a traitor.
Well, like, especially look at the game he's played. Like, everyone knows that he's a faithful. No one's even thought twice about it. He's literally, people see as, like, the most faithful out of everybody. So
remember when people thought he, like, at the beginning when, like, Janelle and Tamra were like, he breathed, so he's a traitor.
I mean, yeah, but, like, that didn't last very long at all. Like, since then, it's been, oh, he's a faithful. Like, I have no doubts about it whatsoever. So just imagine if he got to be a traitor. Like, I just need to live in a world where he's a traitor. I feel like that'd be so fun to watch. So, again, just make that happen. Just make it happen.
Please.
I don't know how we make it happen, but just
if there's like an all-star season, bring him back as a traitor.
Well, I don't think they do an all-star season, maybe another returnee, but you know, I think if they do another returnee like they did with Kate, it should be John. Like, that's kind of where I'm at with this. So yeah. So basically, okay, so Peter then mentions how from Phaedra, he hasn't seen truth, faithful qualities in her in regards to the fear that naturally comes with being a faithful. And as a traitor, she's not privy to, and she asks if he's the faithful king. He says he can't just do it. And he agrees that Dan did tell him she was a traitor, whether he intended to or not. He can't just lose it from his mind. Trishelle says that she feels so many people have gone home for a lot less. Kate says that they were all very passionate about voting out Parvati yesterday, and Trishelle says that she read her notes, and Kate asked if those notes evaporated their fears. And yeah, I mean, Kate has a point. It's like, okay, but like, do you not feel that way about Parvati anymore? Like, why are you switching up on her all of a sudden? So Peter talks about how he had a conversation with Parvati today that completely shifted his view. He's not saying it's 100%, but the pendulum did start coming down. Phaedra says it's because there was a backdoor deal going down. And this, I mean, this was brilliant what Phaedra does here. She mentions the conversation that her, Parvati, and Peter had, where she talks about what Parvati said to the both of them in the armory, mentioning that he wanted to work with Parvati and that they could work together. Peter says he was 100% on her when that conversation happened in the armory. He was being cocky and showing he got her dead in sights, and then said he was just joking when he called her out on it, which is like the worst defense. Like, saying you're just joking is so bad. I don't know why Peter even said that, but Kate is still suspicious that he switched up on her so easily. He asks why she's defending Phaedra so much. She says it's because she finds it weird that he's been so anti-Parvati all the time. And then right after, and he says he's still not off Parvati. And she says she's defending Phaedra because she thinks it's weird that he was so, oh, I just read that. And then he asked if she wanted to work together and switched it to Phaedra. And the whole case is relying on that Dan was such a good game player. He must have given them a clue on the way out, but she just feels that he just kind of sucked playing this game. And that's why he's not here. And honestly, to her credit, she's not wrong. I don't think Dan played a very good game at all. But
no, sadly, I love Dan, but yeah, his game was not great.
Yeah, so CT says he really doesn't know what to think. And then Ellen tells them the time for talking is now over. It's time to vote. And we get to the votes here. So we start with Kate. She says she's a little nervous because it's an important vote and the outcome could determine the outcome of the entire game. So she does vote for Parvati. Sandra says she totally believes that Parvati's a traitor and she's glad she got the heat off at the round table. CT says he and Phaedra have been getting along very well, but he's looking for traitors, not love. And he does think that what Trishelle and Peter were talking about does raise some good questions, and she would be a good one, honestly. And this is what I like about CT. He's very open. He's willing to explore like all options. He's never 100% on anything. And I think he's just playing a really strong game. As a result. So MJ is then the first.
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh, so MJ.
I was just fixing my microphone because it unplugged.
But MJ's the first to vote, and she went for Parvati because she thinks it's been in her direction for so long. Phaedra is next to vote. She went for Parvati and says it's due to the Dan scenario. Phaedra
also, I will say Dan's name was brought up a lot at this roundtable. Like, people can't get have his name in their heads rent free.
I mean, to their credit, that was literally the last roundtable. So, like, why shouldn't they?
Yeah, true.
Like hypothetically, if you were a traitor and you were voted out and you tried to throw me as a traitor, naturally they're going to mention your name because of the fact that you were a traitor and maybe what you were saying had merit. So I don't think it's that Dan lives in their head rent free. I think it's that Dan was at the last roundtable and they're going to naturally bring him up. So yeah. Phaedra says she's played a courageous game, was a great traitor, but it's time to leave. Sandra's next, and she voted for Parvati, says after going back and forth between her and Phaedra, John had valid points, and that's why she thinks that she's a traitor. Peter's next. He still went for Phaedra, which I really think he should have just changed his vote to Parvati at this point, but, he's already made his choice, so went for Phaedra. John is next and says with a very heavy heart his vote is for Parvati. Parvati is next, and she went for Phaedra from hearing Trishelle's points and feeling like it made sense. Parvati says she feels bad, but she knew that she had to take a shot. Kevin is next, and he voted for Phaedra. Trishelle is next, and she also went for Phaedra and says she loves her. Shereé is next. She went with Parvati, feeling that she needs to be consistent. CT is next, and he voted for Parvati and says he can't banish somebody who's lit his torch based on the word of a key liar. It just doesn't sit well in his heart. Again,
it'd be really funny if CT made it tie.
I don't think that's possible. It was 7-4. Would have had if he had voted, it would have been 6-5. So no, it would not be
yeah. Even if he voted for Phaedra, that'd be messy.
Yeah. So Kate is the last to vote, and she went with Parvati. This means by honestly a pretty close vote of 7-4, Parvati has received the most votes and is therefore banished from the game. It is then time for her to reveal if she is a faithful or a traitor. She says to them that she has spent the last 2 years of her life practicing truth-telling and emotional authenticity and really aligning herself with truth and integrity, and coming out here she wanted to play a faithful game, but she is not a faithful. She, of course, is a traitor. They all applaud her on a game well done. Kate feels that this is a good speech, and Trishelle says she will be burning her notebook, knowing that, yeah, I tried something, it didn't work, and now I'm fucked, because she probably is fucked at this point. So Sandra says that Parvati, her nemesis, all their history and fights aside, it's sad to see her gone, but now she's going to be the queen of the castle and win the Traitors. And I really do think Sandra is a very strong.
Oh my god, if Sandra wins season 2 and then Shereé season 1, oh, fantastic.
Oh yeah. So Phaedra says that a lot of her nerves are just horrible because with Parvati banished, she is all alone. This is very scary for her, but she's happy she has people in her corner because it keeps her in a place of power. CT then toasts with John and Phaedra on getting 2 traitors out back to back, which is insane. You just think of last season and how long it took them to get out a traitor and how long.
Wild.
Yeah, the fact they got it out back to back again, just Dan really fucked things up. He really did. So MJ then goes to talk to Kevin, and this is a very crucial scene for what might happen in the next episode. But he immediately says that, she says that it threw him off a little bit, but he doesn't know if that's how they really felt. He really doesn't feel good about today because of Peter not having any suspicion of Parvati. And for some reason now, he doesn't know if he fully believes Peter because something just isn't sitting right with him. She tells him if she does get to talk to Peter, she's going to tell him to pace herself. And Kevin says he doesn't understand why the plan all of a sudden turned into Parvati, which in the back of my mind, I'm like, Kevin, you didn't have to vote that way. You literally did not have to vote that way. You could have easily just voted for Phaedra because John did. So, or you could have easily voted for Parvati because John literally did. But Phaedra is, he's trying to make sense of all this, and to be real, he can't really trust Peter right now. So yeah, I mean, I really think Peter is in a bad spot in the next episode. I really think he's out the door next, just based on what we're seeing here, which is funny because I think if we would have had a round table last episode, I think Peter probably goes, but I think he's probably going to go next. So that's
Yeah,
kind of
I
where
could
I'm
see.
at with that.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah, so Peter says, well, unfortunately, they
I
lost
mean,
the
yeah,
number.
because Peter and Trishelle are definitely like not in good spots in the set.
No, definitely not. But Peter says, well, unfortunately, they lost the numbers to get Phaedra out. He's not changing the way he plays this game. All gas, no breaks till the end. So yeah, fully lost the plot at this point. Like fully just not caring what he's doing. He's just really just such a mess. So he pulls Kate aside and tells her he was trying to play Parvati a little bit. And she says, and let me just say, this is the worst person he could have pulled aside. Like, out of everybody, don't go to Kate, because Kate is so firmly like against what he's doing. Like, I don't know why he even bothered doing
Oh, this
that.
was so stupid. This was like so frustrating.
Yeah, she says that she knows, but he just lied to a table full of faithfuls about someone not being a traitor when he definitely knew that she was. He says he's not faithful to a traitor. She was gone tomorrow night. Asks if she was truly believing anything she was saying. She says she still doesn't, and he says he was gassing her up the entire day. She tells him that she isn't saying Phaedra isn't a traitor. She knows he was just doing some shady shit. So Kate doesn't really care if Phaedra's a traitor or not. All she cares about is that Peter lied and she wants him out at this point. So she says, as far as she's concerned, Peter's a traitor to the faithfuls because he lied, and she just doesn't like playing the game with him because he's just so annoying. So
I
yeah,
mean,
really,
I will say a lot of people think each other are annoying this season.
oh yeah, it's great.
But like Peter was
I prefer
annoying
it
in
over
this
the love
episode.
fest we had last season. So Phaedra and Sandra talk. They both agree that Peter is fucked, has more traitor behavior than anybody. Phaedra agrees his behavior is odd, and if he's not a traitor, how could he be working with one? And this is good for Phaedra. The fact that people are immediately going for Peter, they're not buying into what he's saying. This really makes me think, okay, I think Phaedra honestly might be okay. I don't think we have to worry too much about her. I've heard people say they think Phaedra is going to go out soon, but I don't think so. I think as long as she keeps like Sandra and like Shereé and Kate, she has to keep on her side because, and MJ and like say, the people that she's been working with, like as long as she keeps them on her side, I honestly think she's going to be okay. I don't think she has too much to worry about, at least right now. I think Phaedra's okay. So
I think so too. I think she can at least make it to the end.
Yeah, I think they might figure it out then, but I do think she's. I still think the Faithfuls are going to win the season, but I think that I think she will at least be okay for the next couple episodes.
Yeah.
So Peter says this whole plan is starting to crumble a bit. It's going to be tough to get a good night's rest. He just hopes that he's here in the morning. And with that said, let's get to the Traitors turret, which was very exciting.
All right. So Phaedra says she's the last one standing from day one. She's not shocked she's here. She belongs in a castle. She's definitely a queen. The others fell by the wayside because they were a little suspicious. She feels she deserves the Miss Congeniality Traitors Award hands down.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I mean, I agree.
Oh, yeah.
Now she's wondering who's going to be murdered because someone has to die and she has to make the decision alone.
Yeah, it's crazy. She's literally all by herself.
I know. She has to really think strategically on her own.
Yeah. Which is like the one thing she hasn't had to do yet. Because again, she's been letting Dan and Parvati pretty much take the reins. The only time she's ever had any agency in a decision is by murdering Tamra, which I don't think was a bad decision, but I don't think necessarily was something she needed to do.
Definitely. It was still good, but like she's mostly been just observing and like just sitting back and listening.
Yeah, which again is not a bad strategy, but this is the time she really needs to like take the reins.
Yep, for sure. She walks in by herself, and then Alan walks in and tells her, as per the rules, tonight she'll be afforded the opportunity to recruit a faithful to join her, and they will meet face to face tonight in the castle dungeon. She is very much down for the recruitment, and after considering her options, she decides to pick Kate, since they have the same sort of kindred spirit, but she also understands the game, and they will be a murdering duo.
Yep.
Which I think will be so good. I think
and I mean, I think Kate probably takes this. I don't think, because I mean, if she doesn't, she gets murdered. Like, it's that simple.
Yeah, I think so too. Like,
because it's an ultimatum. So.
Yep. Kate then receives a letter saying she has been ordered to go to the castle dungeon and must go there immediately. She is unsure what she did wrong and asks Fergus to bring her champagne. He locks the door, and she then awaits for whatever comes next.
Which I will say, this does justify why Kate randomly had like a scene in the post-mortem, but it also spoils that, like, okay, Kate's probably going to be a traitor. Like, once they did that, I started to think, maybe Kate will be a traitor after this, just because they showed that. But now it makes sense because Kate is absolutely
the way that ended though was like so intense, and I love it so much.
I don't think they need to end on a cliffhanger. I think this was a pretty obvious decision that she's probably going to take it, because if not, she's murdered. So
they just wanted to make it spicy.
I mean, yeah, but like if you have this decision, you're obviously going to take it, because it's either that, because this is not like Peter's where he doesn't take it and nothing happens. This is an ultimatum where either
like she has to say yes or she's gone.
Yeah, exactly. But how do you think she's going to be like as a traitor?
I think she'll be really good. Like, I think she'll be very direct, but I do think Phaedra actually has to help with decisions too, and not just let Kate do everything.
Yeah.
So hopefully she'll realize that and actually start making decisions.
I don't think she'll be good. I think she'll be entertaining. Because I don't think Kate is necessarily a great player. She certainly wasn't in season 1.
But I do think, but she's definitely not the greatest player. She is just very entertaining, though.
I do think regardless, she's going to be very entertaining to watch. I think she's a great pick for a traitor. Great move for Phaedra, because this was the person that was like defending her the most. And was the most
for
on
sure.
Her side.
That's also a reason why I think she did that.
But I really do think that this, like, Phaedra has to step it up here. Like, she can't let Kate do all the work, because it hasn't been working. So I think she really needs to, like, make the decisions here.
Definitely. Like, she really needs to, like, take control.
Yeah. But with that said, let's get to postmortem, which we actually can have stuff to talk about this time.
Yeah, this is like a 9-minute episode.
Yeah. Well, there was like 3 parts to it, pretty much.
Yep. So Bergie's murder, which I almost read Bridget Mendler.
Shout out to her, really just like doing everything.
Oh yeah, she's got an amazing career. Like, she's living her best life.
Well, career, more like a life.
Like, life, career, everything. Like, she's just
apparently amazing. If you adopt a kid, that's your career.
Well, she adopted a kid. She's a CEO. Oh my god, she's got everything.
Oh yeah,
queen. But anyway, talking about Bergie's murder. Phaedra says Parvati wanted to murder Bergie, and she loved him for how sweet and young he was, and he felt he did a fine job. She didn't debate with her on it because he had gotten into the clique that was being very secretive and wanted to control the castle, and she doesn't like dictatorships or cliques. So when she mentioned, she had no problems with it. Yep. She was worried about suspicion on her in terms of Bergie, because at that point the castle was very divided, and it was Peter and his pals and the rest of them, so there was a strong sense of alienation with the rest of them. So the decisiveness that had been created a lot of tension within the castle.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was perfectly sound reasoning, and the thing is, like, they wanted to get somebody from that side out, so like that's all that mattered.
Yes, definitely. Like, I mean, yes, it makes sense, but it would have been smarter to go for Trishelle, but I mean, it is what it is.
But it's also like, just make sure someone from that side is gone.
Yes, get at least one of the Peter pals out.
Yeah.
Parvati felt Bergie had to go because he was Peter's right-hand man, did whatever he said, and the power couple needed to be broken up. He had also suspected her for a long time and would have just kept voting for her until she was banished. She would have loved to murder Peter. He was the top guy on her hit list, but he had some suspicion by being saved by John, so he was the second best option. She thinks it's great to have Bergie out of the game, and she has no regrets about murdering him. It took a little power away from Peter and his gang of the morality police, so she's delighted to have one of them out of the game. Bergie says going into this game, his strategy was to pretend to trust everybody, even though he only trusted like 3 people towards the end of the game. He thought it was really funny when the traitors just attempted to murder him. He thought he would just be under the radar, and a random kid from Minnesota, just coming off of Love Island, where no one knows who he is, not from BB or Survivor, and didn't think he was on their radar. So that really changed his game plan from there, and he really had to fight harder for shields because they were onto him. He thinks in his life he's always had to fight hard for something he's always wanted, and so it was another moment where he couldn't rely on people to pick him. He had to fight for himself.
Yeah.
He was totally expecting to find the death warrant on that couch, since he was already up for murder before and his shield protected him. He thinks he had a lot more to give and contributed a lot and was getting a lot to figuring out who the next traitor is after Parvati. If she is one, he just wants the faithfuls to win, so his murder could mean something.
Yep, and I mean, like we said, I think Bergie really just surprised us in the way that he played. I thought he was going to be the person that doesn't really fit in this cast. You know, he's like just the younger guy. It's a mostly like older skewing cast and things like that. So I didn't really know if he was going to like fit in with this cast, but he really did. I think he did really well this season, much better than I kind of expected him to.
Yeah, he actually did really well. Like, he like really surprised me in the game,
Oh
and
yeah.
which was great. Like, he definitely wasn't my favorite of obviously of everyone, but like I still liked him. I still enjoyed him, and he's definitely someone who should have a second chance.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to Parvati's banishment here. So Phaedra says from day one, people suspected Parvati. She was a traitor. She played the game with integrity, but at her banishment, she had made a side deal with Peter to sort of go against her. They all already knew her fate. And she says she actually got emotional at the round table because Parvati had lasted much longer than she expected to.
I know.
She will miss her because now she will be at the turret by herself. It's really dark and spooky, but she had expected to be banished days ago. And yeah, this is true. And we'll talk about this when we get to Parvati. But just the fact that Phaedra was like emotional about it when not too long ago, she was literally like yelling at Parvati for like going against her. Again, just really shows like how much that friendship, like not that friendship, but like that bond like turned around.
Oh yeah, definitely. Which was really just wholesome.
Yeah. So Parvati says she feels like she's been on borrowed time since day one of the game. Multiple people have said her name in the house. She says it was so hard playing this game as a traitor. She'd been holding so much emotion and words inside because she was scared to say the wrong thing or look sideways at someone or laugh or smile too much. There's suspicions of her constantly, so she had to play two different parts. The truth is she's a traitor and she had to hide that from everyone, but also had to connect with everyone in a real way so that they trust her, and then has to pretend that she's a faithful. So she had to think in someone else's mind all the questions a faithful would have to ponder, being scared of murder, eager for a shield. She doesn't really know any of the answers to this, and she says that being a traitor at the round table was the most stressful experience of her life. She had to be on the defense, but also had to think as a faithful, looking for traitors. So there's a lot of different complex layers happening. She thinks that she defended herself as well as she could, lying through her little teeth, but they got her. She says she's played this game as a game, didn't want to be duplicitous towards anyone in like a personal attack way. So she wanted to make sure when she shared with them that she was a traitor, she wanted them to know it doesn't mean she's a bad person. If she's a traitor, it means she's playing the game the way it's meant to be. She says Phaedra will have to recruit. She can't possibly do this alone and will need numbers on her side. And let's talk about Parvati here, because I do think overall, I don't think she played a terrible game. I don't think she played a great game by any means. I think she
definitely didn't play like an amazing game like on Survivor, but she still did very well.
Well, I think her biggest mistake, honestly, was aligning with Dan. I think that really put a target on her back.
I love the duo, though. It's just they definitely weren't like the best, like the most like amazing duo, like game wise. But I love them as just people in general.
I do too, but I think the issue with aligning with a fellow traitor is that you always have to, vouch for that traitor and things like that. And when you do that, if people aren't suspicious of you, they're going to be suspicious of you because it puts a bigger target onto your back. And that's exactly what happened with Parvati. Once the whole shield debacle happened, there really was no getting out of that. Everybody was onto her. Everybody thought Parvati had to go. Everybody thought that she was a traitor at that point. There really was nothing she could do to save herself. I think what she did in this episode was good, but I really think she needed to do that after she started to realize, oh, Dan is a problem. Dan is someone that people are going for. Everyone thinks Dan is a traitor. I think she needed to throw him under the bus. I think she needed to kind of play this role as like, I'm being accused. I don't understand what I'm being accused. Try to work with Peter early on. Like there's things that she needed to do that she just didn't. And I just think it really ended up hurting her game. I think
she kind of like screwed herself over and worked with the wrong people and said the wrong things.
Yeah, I really think her biggest issue was, again, just her working with Dan, but also her going for Phaedra so early on also didn't really
That
work
too,
out.
yeah,
I
because they
think
were, like, so against each other.
well, it seems like by the end they turned things around, but yeah, I mean, I think that
Yeah.
definitely didn't
They
help
probably
her
talked things out.
either. So she always had somebody coming for her. That was really her
Yeah.
biggest issue, I think, is that she never was able to get the scent off of her. And I think that really did end up hurting her pretty drastically in this game. So while I do think Parvati played like as well, easily her best move in the game, oddly enough, is murdering Ekin-Su. As much as Ekin-Su did trust her, I think the way that she handled that round was perfect. I think that was spot on. I think that was the best she played the entire game. Unfortunately, I think that she got herself caught in a crossfire. She couldn't get out of it. She tried to finally get out of it in this episode, but it was just way too late to do any sort of to do any sort of repairing to her game. So yeah, overall, I mean, you know, I'm definitely a fan. I like the way that she played. I like a lot of things that she did. I just don't think a lot of it was super effective, and I think it really did end up costing her. So yeah, well, I do think Parvati played an all right game. I don't think she played a great game by any means, but what did you think?
Yeah, like, I adore her. She's one of my favorite Survivor players, and, like, I thought she played a very, like, entertaining and fun game.
Yeah.
Obviously, just need to change up a lot because she definitely made a lot of mistakes because she didn't play, like, the most amazing game at all, but she
No.
was still amazing to watch and just great TV and just she's just so fun, and I adore her,
Mhm.
and Parvati's just, like, such an icon. She's such a queen, like, literally, like, literally her and Sandra are, like, 2 of the Survivor queens for sure, and, like, I love their little, like, queen rivalry. It's so entertaining, and I was just so happy to see her back.
Yeah, and the one thing I did hear, and obviously you can vouch for this, is that she played very differently in this than she usually does in Survivor. Normally, she's someone that people seem to gravitate towards more. Here, people are calling her an ice queen. So I don't know if
She
you
is an
agree.
ice queen.
What?
She is an ice queen.
Well, I heard people say that she normally like hasn't been accused of that. Like normally she's more someone people gravitate towards and that people like,
Yeah.
but here
Well,
people
yeah.
were flat out calling her like,
I know.
evil and things like that.
I mean, I guess some people just don't really know her game besides the Survivor and Big Brother people.
I also think that's emblematic of how she played though. Like I think that she didn't do a good job of gaining allies. I think she really just didn't put herself in a great position at all. She constantly was catching strays. She
I
constantly
know,
had
I felt
people
bad for
gunning
her in
for
that
her.
way.
What?
I felt bad for her in that way. Everyone's always like, "Yeah, Parvati is such a terrible person," and stuff.
Well, not terrible person, but as a traitor, yeah.
Yeah.
I did really like what she said about I did really like what she said about how, she wanted to tell people like who she was as a person because yeah, it's true. We literally saw it last season. Just because someone is a traitor, it doesn't mean that they're like that in real life. They have to play that way. They signed up to play the game. If they don't play that way, they're gonna not win the money. Like I like that she said that because I mean that's for Quentin, that's for Ari. Like touch grass, literally. Like just go fucking touch grass for saying what you did about Shereé because it's so stupid.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it was really good that she said that. But we do get a little bit with the recruitment here. Kate talks about how from the moment she stepped in the castle, Parvati gave her traitor vibes. She feels that Parvati is very persuasive and seductive. She talks about how yoga teachers are always convincing her of things she doesn't want to do, not wanting to be uncomfortable in positions, but always telling her to hold it. And they're like, stay. And for some reason, they just do it. She feels she's too good at this game and she had to go. And the fact that they got Parvati banished was a big win for the Team Bravo girls because now it's less likely that Peter and his pals will be in the final. Then talks about Peter coming to her and that he had to kiss her ass because her side had more numbers in the turret and asking if she would accept his rose. She sees what Peter is doing. He's trying to kiss her ass because he wants to be in the final and probably has no idea who she is. But because she's a returning special guest, she sees right through it. And this is what I said about Kate. Like, I think that's why she is playing
Mhm.
the season better. She has more
Yeah,
knowledge. She knows
she
how the game
does.
works.
Mhm.
So he didn't want Parvati banished because he had a traitor on his side, and she's really unsure why she was brought to the dungeon. And that is how we wrap this up. Like I
So
said, we
good.
only So we only have 3 episodes, like I said, 3 episodes left at this point. I think no question about it, Kate will absolutely be a traitor, and I think she's going to be an interesting one. I don't think she'll
She
be.
will.
I don't think she'll
She's
be a
not going to be
particular.
like a perfect traitor, but she's going to be fun to watch.
Oh no, I think she's definitely going to do too much, but I think it's going to
I
be
can see
fun to
that.
watch regardless.
Oh, definitely. But I'm excited to see it anyway.
But right now, if you were to predict like who is getting to the end of this game, who do you think it's going to be? Who's going to be the 5 people left?
Ooh, the 5 in the end. Sandra, CT.
Yeah, for sure.
Shereé.
Probably.
John.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna put Phaedra in there, but I don't see her winning.
Yeah, that's kind of what I see too. If you had to ask me right now, how do I think the rest of this game is going to play out? I think that Peter is the next one that's banished. I think everybody's on to him. I think they easily go for him.
But I can also see it being Trishelle too, just because like Trishelle was very vocal.
Maybe, but it just seems like the tide's like really turned against Peter, and especially Kevin saying like what he said, that can't be good. Like that can't be good at all. I think the person that's murdered next probably is Trishelle. I think that actually, I think MJ is actually the person that's murdered next because they want to.
She definitely seems like an easy murder soon too, because she just doesn't really do. I mean, she does stuff, but she's just kind of there.
And no one really is coming for her. So I think she maybe gets murdered next. I think the next person that's banished is probably Trishelle. I think she probably goes after that. And then I think the last person to get murdered in this game, it's tough to say. It really is tough to say, but I could see Phaedra killing Shereé. I could see that happening. I could see John getting, murdered possibly. I'm not really sure. I think Kevin.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like I could see John being murdered, but it's also I don't know. I could see him being maybe like if he's murdered, I could see him being the last one right before the finale.
It depends on how he handles these next couple rounds. If he really like distances himself from like the Pete's pals and he starts to kind of go off on his own, I think he's gonna do really well. But if he continues to like work closely with Peter, work closely with Trishelle, it's not gonna work out for him. So that's kind of how I see it playing out right now. In regards to, do Kate and Phaedra have a chance to win? I think they do. I really do. I just think that Kate is going to be like really obvious as a traitor just because like that's how she plays the game.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to make it that much farther.
No, and I do think eventually, like, it's gonna catch up to Phaedra. Like, I think people are gonna start putting the puzzle pieces together. And to be honest, if you had to ask me who do I think is going to put it together, I think it is absolutely gonna be Sandra and CT. I think they are gonna be the last 2 standing. I think that's probably how this is gonna play out. But we will really have to see what ends up happening. Either way, I'm really excited to see how this all wraps up. Like I said, this has been such a strong season. I can't wait to see how everything plays out. I don't think we needed Dr. Will in this episode, but other than that, I
still thought it was like an A+ episode. I just thought the Dr. Will part was very pointless, but overall it was still a top tier episode.
Yeah. Anything else to really talk about before we plug things?
I mean, just hopefully I'm sure it's still going to be a fantastic season because the season is the gift that keeps on giving.
It really is.
But just got to hope it ends off on a very exciting note.
Yeah. So
and obviously the reunion's going to be spicy.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff
I cannot wait
get into. Especially like I said, recently we've been seeing some tea about Larsa and Marcus. I'm excited to see how that plays out for sure.
I know, that's so interesting.
Yeah. But with that said, we do have some things to plug. Obviously, stay tuned. We're going to be doing this very soon. We are going to be doing a cast assessment for Deal or No Deal Island. Woo! We were unsure if we were going to do it, but I will say
we're going to do because we watched the first 20 minutes on Peacock earlier.
Pretty good. I liked what I saw.
Yeah, I did too. So we're going to do a little mini assessment of what we can go off of and a little draft right after this, actually.
Yeah. So very excited for that one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun when we do end up doing that. And then also, starting up next week, so excited for it. Survivor is coming back for Survivor 46, coming back.
And also on Monday, we're going to be doing a cast assessment and draft with our friends, Jen and Topher.
Yes, very excited to have them on. It's been a while since we've had them on this channel, so we're excited to to get to do that. Always enjoy getting to hear their thoughts, and we will be going over the Caststand as well as a little draft. Going to be a really great season. We got 2-hour episodes for the first 2 episodes, and the rest are 90 minutes. So I'm very excited to see how this season does play out. And then
obviously, like BB Can, we're hoping we're probably going to do it weekly if they end up having live feeds, which I hope.
Feeds,
yeah, but if not, we're probably just going to do like a season review, kind of like our BB24 one.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was about to say. BB Can 12, really, it's dependent on, do they have feeds? If we have feeds, we will do it regularly, where we review it weekly and we, give proper insight. But if not, I don't really want to do it weekly.
Literally.
Why? Because
like, we can still watch it. If there's no feeds, like, we can still watch it. It could just be like a before we sleep show, whatever, and then just do a little season review. But hopefully there's feeds. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, because at this point, like, why wouldn't you do feeds? Like, they literally came off of the worst dudes. Yeah. They literally came off of like the worst performing season in the entire show. Not to say BB Can 11 is the worst season, but it was the worst season in terms of ratings. Like, nobody was really watching it. The only people talking about it are people like us who do podcasts.
Yeah, literally just podcasters and casuals.
Other than that, nobody was really talking about it. So I don't really see why they wouldn't get feeds back. It just kind of makes sense. BB25 was so popular because of the feeds. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just, I really hope they're back, because if not, I'm going to be really annoyed. But
I know, because like the feeds are a big part of Big Brother. So
it literally is Big Brother. The show's called Big Brother because of the feeds.
Literally. So like, and everyone's been like tagging like Arissa Cox and Big Brother Canada and such to bring back feeds, so they should listen to the fans.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they actually do, because they didn't last year, so we'll see if they do this year. But
we'll see.
Yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy. As always, comment down below, let us know what you guys are thinking of the Traitors. How do you think this is all going to play out? Very excited to see how these last few episodes wrap up. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Also, hit us up if you want to be a guest.
Yes, of course. And remember, couples who podcast together, stay together. We will see you guys later.
Bye, guys.